Welcome to Beyond Your Why podcast, where we go beyond just talking about your why and actually help you discover and then live your why. You see, we believe that knowing your why, that driving force behind every decision you make and every action you take, is the essential first step to really knowing yourself. It allows you to move forward faster and have a bigger impact. If you're already a fan of the show, then you know that every week we talk about one of the 9 whys, and then we introduce you to somebody with that why so you can see how their why is played out in their life. This show will be more powerful for you if you've already discovered your why. If you still need to do that, head over to whyinstitute.com and discover your why today. It'll only take you about 5 minutes. Now, let's meet today's guest. This week, we're going to be talking about the why of make sense. To make sense of things, especially if complex or complicated. So if this is your why, then you are driven to solve problems and resolve challenging or complex situations. You have an uncanny ability to take in lots of data and information. You tend to observe situations and circumstances around you, and then you sort through them quickly to create solutions that are sensible and easy to implement. Often you are viewed as an expert because of your unique ability to find solutions quickly. You also have a gift for articulating solutions and summarizing them clearly in understandable language. You believe that many people are stuck, and if they could just make sense of their situation, they could develop simple solutions and move forward. In essence, you help people get unstuck and move progress. And so today I have a great guest for you. His name is James Whittaker. He is an entrepreneur, best-selling author, and the founder of Win the Day movement, reaching over 2 million people each month. After leading a financial planning team managing $2 billion in assets, he stepped away to build his own platform focused on helping ambitious people get clear on what they want and create a simple, powerful plan to achieve it. He's the host of the Win the Day podcast, which has generated more than 100 million views across 130 countries. And he's been featured on the Today Show, Entrepreneur, Money Magazine. James has interviewed more than 600 world-class performers to uncover what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Please welcome James Whittaker.
Gary, great to see you, my friend. I always love spending time with you. So thanks for having me on.
You too. I've been looking forward to this. This is going to be, just that bio. When we look at the bio that you have, it brings up a lot of things for us to talk about, a lot of things that you've done at a very high level that I think our audience could really benefit from.
Yeah, here to serve. Wherever you want to take it is good with me.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's jump back into your life. Let's go back to when you were very young. Where were you born, and what were things like for you growing up?
Yeah, I was born in Brisbane, Australia. So when people hear that you're from Australia, they say you're from Sydney or Melbourne. I'm from the third city, Brisbane. So it was a great place to live. I grew up in the middle of nowhere on 10 acres. We had a house next to us, but there was no one else around for about a 10-minute drive. So it's all developed now. But at the time, I just loved growing up, being outdoors. I had an older brother and a younger sister. Life was good. And then when I got into high school, I developed this debilitating anxiety disorder, which made life very, very difficult for me. And it's interesting that when you're talking about stuff from the Make Sense profile, that's all great. And I can see back then how contradictory it is for me, knowing that I have that personality and this desire and this willingness to do things, that when you don't know who you are and you don't know where you want to go, then it makes all of the decisions that you're faced with in a given day very, very difficult. So that was really one of the biggest struggles I've ever had in my entire life, was from about the ages of probably about 15 until 23 years old, where anxiety just robbed me of so much of my potential, where, I was drinking too much, I was eating crappy food, hanging around people that weren't the best for my development, not reading books, until one day I reached a point where I'm like, I can't live like this anymore. And that was a turning point for me at the age of 23, when I committed to taking ownership of my life for the first time. And it's really when the seeds of the Win the Day mission that I'm on now were first born.
So if we were to go back to when you were, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, maybe even younger, were you forced to grow up quickly? Like, did you have to kind of almost be the adult in the room?
Not really. I had two good parents, but I had a father who became very successful in his career, and I had my mother was a stay at home mum looking after the kids. And then a couple of interesting things happened that really changed the trajectory for our family. So my father, who was starting to develop a little bit of success, was involved in a property development deal, and this is back in the 80s when the interest rates were about 20%. So this was not a good timing to have debt in your life. And so he almost went bankrupt. And he spoke to my mum, and my mum said to him, "It's okay to lose the house, but don't lose your good name." And she was pregnant with my sister at the time. So, very young kids. And that was a really important lesson in integrity, something that I've never forgotten from the first time that I heard that story. And then my father went on to write a book about his experiences. So we had nothing really apart from just the house that we lived in. He ended up writing a book about his experiences that was really a personal finance motivation hybrid book called Making Money Made Simple, that ended up selling more than 2 million copies in the world. It ended up becoming this extremely popular book when it was released many years later. And my mum also went back to university for the first time and became a psychologist for abused children. So you can see there the two things. I had the entrepreneurial father who was so committed to getting out there in the world, helping as many people as possible. And I had my mother on the other side who was really also focused on helping people, but from much more of an empathetic standpoint. So that was really the background of which I grew up.
Hmm. Now, if we were to go to your high school and there's James walking down the hallway in the high school, what would we have seen?
You would see someone that always enjoyed having fun. Like I was always a fairly happy person. I have been very comfortable talking to people of all backgrounds the same. I could be friends with teachers just as I'd be friends with the students. It meant that I was able to, perhaps get a few hints if I was doing an exam and I didn't have the answers or something like that. So that was always good to be able to make friends. It's something that I feel like, looking back at, one of the great privileges in my life. It's that I was exposed to people of a lot of different backgrounds. And that's just a really great habit to have just had a lot of conversations with a lot of people. But you also would have seen a kid who was lost, someone who was just somewhat disheveled in appearance, trying to figure out the world and your role in it. Because as my father started to become more successful, I would begin to compare myself to him. And I had an older brother who was very successful academically at school. And I just wasn't getting these wins. Of course, I realized it's because I wasn't putting in the right work. I wasn't focused on my gifts. And that's what really snowballed into that crippling anxiety disorder. So that's really the lens at which I was at in high school. So I was completely lost. And the way that I described it in the years leaving high school is that I was a malfunctioned human destined for the scrap heap. That's really how I felt. I looked around at everyone else who seemed to have everything figured out. I couldn't reconcile the fact that I was born in a great country like Australia, good education, great family. Why was I the only one who couldn't get any of this stuff right? And it's taken me a long time to be able to, really come to terms with who I am and the impact that I want to have on the world. And something that I'm so passionate about today is obviously helping people win the day. It's because I see so much unrealized potential in the world. And that all stems from me having that when I was in high school.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense now. And so, okay, so you graduate from high school, off to university. How did you figure out what you were going to study?
Well, I cared more about the university than what I was going to study. So where in Brisbane, where I'm from, the university that most people want to go to is the University of Queensland, depending on the vocation that you want. A lot of my friends were going to the University of Queensland. And really, my grades only entitled me to get into a Bachelor of Arts. So I was like, wow, what am I going to do with a Bachelor of Arts? So I enrolled in that. And then in my very first university lecture, I was doing a writing class because I've always just been passionate about and enjoyed writing. And the professor, who was a successful creative writer, he said, "Put up your hands if you want to make money from being an author." And 200 hands went up. And then he said, "Let me be clear, you will never be successful financially as an author." And I thought, what a demotivating thing to say to students. But the very next day, I was able to go enroll in a dual degree. So I had a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Business, because that would give me a little bit more of a commercial acumen that I could use to go and obviously generate the income that I wanted to have, so I wouldn't be homeless. And then I just got involved in a whole bunch of different things. And it's interesting in my why profile that you were talking about there, that I have sort of this perception of expertise. People come to me a lot for advice. A big part of that is because I have done so many different things. I've been involved in entrepreneurial ventures as I tried to find my way. And all of those things eventually led to that win the day path when that mission became clear. I feel like we put so much pressure on kids and on ourselves to figure out what is this one great purpose that we want to have on this earth. And it just took me a long time to figure it out. Probably at the age of 33, 34 years old, I really figured out who I was and what I was put on the earth for.
Mm. So for our listeners, when we talk about James's why of makes sense, but his how he goes about doing that is by making things clear and understandable, first for himself and then for others. And then ultimately what he brings is a trusting relationship where others can count on him. But when we think to your story there, James, one of the challenges with people that have the how of clarify, which includes me, is trying to figure out trying to make things clear so you can actually make a decision. And in
Yeah.
your case, you want to be able to trust that decision. So it's very hard at that age to have enough clarity to actually make a decision. So it stalls us out, right? Keeps us
It
from
does.
actually making a choice because we're not clear, man. I'm just not clear. I don't know if this is the best way. I don't know if this is the way I should go. So it stalls us out and it takes us off a lot longer. And in your case, till you were about 33.
Yeah, that's right. I was always envious of people who were at school and they're like, I want to go and be a lawyer, I want to go and be a doctor, and they have a very linear path. And I've had some renewed appreciation for that sort of generalist journey. It's been obviously had a lot of heartache along the way, but once you have that sense of self, that's when everything happens from there. Like I'm a big believer that if you have a problem, that there is a whole bunch of people around you that want to help you, but if they're not clear on what help you need and how they can support you, then they can't and they won't. So yeah, having that real clarity of, in my experience, working with people all over the world, successful founders, CEOs, the times that people feel like they're treading water, it comes down to two things: they're not clear on who they are, and they're not clear on where they want to go. So it's easy to be able to diagnose that in my own life, looking back on it. The times that I've had great success, I guess as we would define it, are the times when I was crystal clear on who I was and very, very clear on where I wanted to go. So I think it's very handy for people to always have good answers to those questions at any stage of life.
And it's hard to do for yourself, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is, and that's where I think just getting a lot of experiences under your belt is really useful. I remember I moved to Boston at the age of 28 to go and study at an international business school that was 9 months in Boston and 3 months in Shanghai, and that was about as far away from Brisbane, Australia, as you can get. And I always wanted to go to America and just go to a place where I didn't know a single person to sort of prove that I can make it and just enjoy that experience. And that's where I was really exposed to entrepreneurship for the first time. I saw people my age and younger who were getting after it. They were coming up with these great ideas. They were pitching investors. They were working hard late at night on their different concepts. And I just realized that people naturally gravitate towards those folks because they speak with so much more passion. And I'd never even thought that entrepreneurship was a path that I could possibly go down. But as a result of that, just having that inspiration and feeling like I didn't have anything tying me down, which is the benefit of being in a new city. Often, if we're trapped in the city that we grew up in, we have all of those people around us and we have that fear of criticism, that fear of failure. It's so much stronger when you're in that location where you grew up. So, being on the other side of the world, I didn't have that at all. And it meant that I got involved in a whole bunch of different things. And I realized if you can focus on continually improving your value, so becoming more and more valuable, that enables you to give more and more value to people who are higher up the food chain. And if you can do that, those people will slowly start to take an interest in you because of the value that you've provided to them. And once you've got a wide-ranging group of influential and successful people who are interested and deeply invested in you and your development, then every opportunity you could possibly want is yours for the taking. You don't need to chase it. It just finds its way to you. And that's the way that I talk about the law of attraction and the law of resonance. It's really being able to focus on the value that you can provide others, and then you attract those opportunities into your orbit.
Yeah. Okay, so back to your story. Now you graduated, you went off to university, had double major, graduated, and so you were, let's say, 22, 23 at that time?
Yep, yep.
And then what happened to you that then led you into the US?
Yeah, I was in the corporate world for a while, and I love that. I was able to continue to sort of move up the ranks in the financial planning world. My last role before I left, I was managing a team of about 30 financial advisors for a financial planning company that had about $2 billion under management. But I reached that point there where the real challenge that I had was time. I wasn't really learning that much anymore. I sort of felt like I'd reached a little bit of a ceiling in terms of my development. So it was a good lesson for me that there's always more work. So trying to work harder and harder is not going to make you happy, right? If there's always more work. And if the only challenge is time, like limited amount of hours in a day to get the work done, well, then it's time for me to move on to somewhere else. And I've had those pivotal times in my life where it's actually always been a female boss of mine who has said to me, this is not the place for you anymore. Once I've told them that decision, they've said, go and spread your wings. There's a much bigger world out there that needs you. And I've never forgotten those words of encouragement that those women had shared with me. So that was when I made the decision to go and explore the world. First of all, I went and did 4 months backpacking around South and Central America, and then moved to Boston and China after that. And once that was done, I moved to LA in 2012, and that's where I've been ever since.
Wow. When I was graduated from dental school, I went and traveled through Europe for a bit, and it was always with Australians. I don't know what it is about you Australians.
We get around.
You get around. So now the traveling that you did, what's the biggest takeaway you can talk about that you had from all the traveling? Why did you do it, and what did you learn, and what was the results of that time spent traveling?
Yeah, traveling is something that Australians, my theory is that it takes us so long to get anywhere that we spend a long time in those destinations that we go to. So there's not many Australians, but you'll find us all over the world. A big lesson for me was that oftentimes we reflect when we're young on maybe a relationship that ended prematurely in our own mind, or a business venture that didn't end up the way that we wanted to. And then we travel and we realize the world is so much bigger than we'd recognized. And that gives you this sense of like, wow, on one side, it's quite motivating, as in like, look at all these inspiring things that are happening around the world. But it also is quite interesting in that, look, the fears that I have and the worries that I have are so minute in the whole scheme of things when we look at how big and expansive this world is. So that sense of adventure, I think that people are so limited in their beliefs sometimes when we get really upset about things that have gone wrong for us, when we should really transmute those feelings into something, like reframe those feelings into what can we do to go out there and explore what other opportunities are available. But aside from that, it's also been just being able to develop friendships with people all over the world. That's been amazing. I love knowing people from, Brazil, South Africa, all of South America, really all over the world, as a result of the traveling I've done, being able to keep in touch with those people. It's really, really awesome because there's a Stephen Covey quote, one of my favorites. He said, seek first to understand, then be understood. And once you've had an opportunity to go around to a whole bunch of countries around the world, you've been able to understand so many people and so many cultures. And then in entrepreneurship, so many businesses, that it's so much easier for you to cut to the root of what a problem might be, if whether it's personally or professionally that someone has, as well as just giving you, I think, an overall sense of calm about really how serious problems might be. In our own mind, they're very severe, but perhaps not so severe if we looked at the bigger picture.
Okay, and then how did you pick LA?
I went to a wedding in Hawaii after Boston, and I was the best man for this wedding, and there was one of the bridesmaids there. You know where this story is heading. And we ended up spending a week together in Hawaii because we were part of it as a big group. And she had just moved to LA from DC. She'd been living there for a few years when I was in Boston, and we didn't really know each other at all, although we had a lot of mutual best friends, obviously. And so I said, cool, I was already in a long-term relationship like she was. We'd both become single in the last month. So I said, cool, I've got no obligations, nothing tying me down. I've got this MBA. Let me move to LA if you're going to be there, and let me give it a shot. So that was the reason and the decision that I moved to LA in 2012.
And still together?
Still together. Now I'm the only Australian in the family. I've got an American wife and 2 American kids.
So that one trip to Hawaii worked out pretty darn good for you.
It did. It's been an expensive trip overall over the long term, but yeah, it's been great. But it's a classic example of at the time I remember being so depressed in Boston after that relationship had broken down, I had the feeling that it wasn't a forever relationship. And so that's why I was like, look, I think we need to move in a different direction. But I was still very depressed because I found myself in this city living all alone at a time when you're drinking a bit because you're out socializing, talking about a time when you finish your MBA and you got to go and get a job and all of those different things. It's a very stressful period. And then I was told that I was going to be deliver the commencement address at the big graduation in front of thousands of people. And it's just not what you want to hear when you're in a fairly depressed state of mind. So things were just not great for me mentally at that point. And then a month later, everything turned around. I met the love of my life, and now I've got kids who I love more than anything in the world. And yeah, you never know what's around the corner, but you just got to keep showing up every day.
And so, okay, so you moved to LA, say, I can make this happen in LA. What was your first job in LA?
So this is pretty funny. I actually sent about 100 resumes out and didn't hear from a single one. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. I'm like, moving to a new city, it's tough, right? Because the visa requirements that I was on at that stage, I had to spend 3 months in LA and 3 months in Australia. I couldn't spend any longer in America. It's really important to make sure that you continue. Like, you can make friends, but if you're gone for 3 months, those holes get filled, those voids get filled, and other people come in there. So it was only once I was able to do a little bit of networking that I secured a marketing job, of all things. And then I had also established a social media brand of my own at this point. And we were doing some interesting things. I began to interview some very influential people for the first time. And I was driving up to San Francisco to interview a well-known CrossFit athlete. And I thought to myself, why am I spending all this time making someone else's dreams come true, being the job that I was working at? And that was the moment where I then went all in on the different entrepreneurial pursuits. I launched one of the world's largest CrossFit gyms with 2 business partners, launched an activewear brand, had a social media brand, a weightlifting club, like way too many things going on. And then I got involved in a movie that they were going to make about the book Think and Grow Rich for the first time by Napoleon Hill. So I became executive producer of the movie as well as author of the book that would come out with the movie. And that's really, as part of that, that's when I got the opportunity to meet people like Barbara Corcoran and Bob Proctor and Rob Dyrdek. And just being around those people, it made me realize that I needed to be in their orbit more often. I got so much energy being around successful people who were following their dreams. So that process of interviewing those people, it left me with 3 questions. And those questions were, how can I meet these people more often? And second, how can I become friends with those people? I wanted to be able to have them in my phone. If I needed something, I could reach out to them rather than just a fleeting interaction. And then finally, how can I build my own brand in the process? So they were the 3 questions. How can I meet them more often? How can we become friends? And how can I build my own brand in the process? And the answer to all of those questions was the Win the Day podcast. And that's when I launched that. And it became an opportunity for me to meet successful and influential people every couple of weeks. We would sit down in person, do a great interview or a great conversation in the studio. And the amount of opportunities that have headed my way just through the walk, walking that guest back to the car afterwards is truly amazing. So I'm a big believer that just having conversations with people is just a great way to help achieve your goals and obviously help a lot of people along the way.
Oh, I love that. And so that was back. How long have you had the Win the Day podcast?
It's almost 7 years now, which is crazy. Yeah, it's funny when you start a podcast, you never think about when am I going to end this thing, but yeah, still happy with how it's going. So yeah, we're still here.
So let's talk for a minute about Win the Day. Yeah. How did that come about? What is it? Explain that to our audience.
So Win the Day, the whole concept of that came from when I was reading the Napoleon Hill book, and it said that the poverty mindset will automatically overtake any mind that is not preoccupied with success. So if you're not thinking about success already, then poverty is going to come in there, and ill health and misery and all of those things that you don't want. And I thought, wow, that's really, really powerful. And I agree with that. But how can I talk about that in a way that's easy for people to understand? So the way that I interpreted that was, each day, if you do not make the decision to win, you've automatically made the decision to lose. Like, that's the reality. We take life a day at a time. You take your health, your marriage, your career. If you can just focus on these things a day at a time, then that's the most important thing. You release yourself from anxiety over what's going to happen in the future or things that happened in your past. And then I simplified that even further to win the day. And that just became my mantra. Every day we just focus on one thing, win the day. And that's really where the origins of where it came from.
Mm. And now you've developed a tool for it, a process for it, a way to help people not just say win the day, but hey, now let's go do it. Let me show you how to do it, right?
Exactly. So what I realized, one of the biggest problems, so after working with a whole bunch of CEOs and founders privately, I realized there's only so much success those people can have if their team is not along for the ride. So I had that. Their team really needs to buy into and adopt this win the day mentality. And at the same time as I was doing that coaching and having those realizations, I also became a father. And it made me realize that things like your marriage can go on the rocks because of, you're dealing with a lack of sleep, and the energy related to having young kids in the house can be very, very difficult at times. Physical health, you stop doing things like a lot of the hobbies that you used to love. There's so many things that happen, and it always coincides with you having the most career responsibilities that you've ever had if you've got a corporate job, or if you're an entrepreneur. So that was a solution for me. I was like, how can I help these people solve the problem of overwhelm? That's what I wanted to do with Win the Day. So what I've created is a win score assessment for someone to complete, and it gives them a win score that really analyzes how far away they are from operating at their potential, and then it embodies a 4-week action plan with a few things for people to focus on every single week, with me guiding them every step of the way so they can get a little bit closer to their potential after that 30 days is done.
You know what I liked about it, because you and I went through that, what I really liked about it was how simple it was. You didn't give me more stuff to do that I can't already get done what I'm trying to do. Hey, let me overload you with some more stuff for you to try to get done what you can't already get done. That doesn't
Yeah.
make, I mean, it was just very simple, very easy to do, very powerful.
Yeah, and it starts with creating capacity too. Like, the people that I work with are incredibly stressed. They're stressed at work, they're stressed when they come home, they're stressed all the time. So a lot of these programs, they often go straight into things like goal setting. But if the person has no capacity at the moment, then that's going to be very, very difficult for them to buy in and want to engage with the services that you're doing. So that's why one of the very first things that we do is we focus on creating capacity for the individual. Things like, what are a few things that you can do to really upgrade your morning routine? And then after that, after 1 week of that, we say, cool, now let's look at your evening routine. What's a couple of things that we can do to optimize your evening routine? Everything is laid out so people can follow it, but it's important that we are clear on what are the things that bring you joy at the moment, what are the things that you love to do, and really what are the things that you need to do to help you show up the way that you want to show up for the people that you care about most. Because I've found a lot of people, they don't care about the mission of the company they work for because they don't care about themselves. Like, right back to this idea of clarity on who you are and where you want to go. If you are one of those people that you're not clear on who you are and where you want to go, how can you possibly care about someone else's mission? So that's one of the things that we track with this whole Win the Day program, as well as how motivated are you to contribute to your organization's mission. And if the answer from all of those people that we survey is that they're not very motivated at all, it's a really big opportunity for the employer to be able to say, cool, let's get a bit more clear on what our mission is. Let's make sure our team have some buy-in and they understand why we're doing the work that we do. And I come in and help them create a bit of capacity so they can show up the way they want to show up at work and at home.
Hmm. So how long does the entire, the win the day process, if you will, take in a day? I mean, it wasn't a lot, right? You didn't add an hour of stuff for me to do. It was minutes.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So for some people, so that's, the ways that I think about this stuff, first of all, is affirm your success. When you wake up in the morning, take a moment to say out loud, today is going to be a great day, or I'm going to win the day. Just something as simple as that, because our expectations tend to be fulfilled. All the great psychologists in the world will tell you that if you have positive expectations for your day, it is scientifically proven that you are going to have a more positive and productive day. The next thing I encourage people to do is to do something challenging, something that you don't want to do. Maybe it's a cold shower. Maybe it's a gym workout. You're obviously going to feel amazing once you've done those things. But what's something that you don't want to do? A little bit of a challenge that can help you have sustained energy throughout the day and really build that muscle of resilience. And then the final thing that I really encourage people to do is just to write down what 3 things that they can do to make today a win. And I also like to get people to think about different areas of their life. So don't make it all related to work. Don't make it all related to like physical fitness. Don't make it all related to family. Maybe you've got one related to career. Maybe you've got one related to how you're going to show up for your family. And maybe you've got one related to what you want to do to take care of your body or your mind on a given day. And if you can do those three things, I mean, you could do all of those things in the space of about 6 or 7 minutes. So they can fit in with the busiest of schedules. I guarantee that you will have more energy, greater opportunity, stronger relationships. Your life will change immeasurably, almost immediately.
Hmm. So how has this worked for some people? Give us some stories of people you've worked with that and how it worked out for them.
Yeah, often a lot of people don't back themselves. You think just because I'm in this particular situation that I'm going to continue going through the motions. And the way that they approach these situations when they're unhappy is often to run harder on the treadmill, as if they're going to get to an end of this work that just never ends. So some of the things that have worked really well for people is actually more of the unexpected things. Some of those things can include setting boundaries. So particularly the data that I've got so far is that the mums in particular, they're the ones that if they can just get better at setting a couple of boundaries here or there, maybe at work, maybe at home, in terms of what they need so they can get a bit of self-care back or just take something off their plate to delegate to someone else, then that can have a massive benefit for them. One of the other things that's really powerful is to also, obviously, if you're a leader, you want to set the example that you expect for others. But if there's something that's you're becoming resentful of, have a conversation with that colleague on your team to say, look, we have standards in this team. I know that you can do this. I know that you've got more potential, and just have a conversation with them so they start living by those standards. So these are things that I feel are really important. It's often those little unexpected actions that we can take that end up being the biggest levers for growth.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I can see just as we were going through it how powerful it is, but simple. That's the key, at least for me.
Yeah.
It's if it's too complex, even though it might be even better, I guess it wouldn't be better.
That's right. The most important thing is this is something I feel like for anyone who is an author of a book or you have a business or just at any stage, I'm a big believer that we're all leaders. And if you have put something out there, it is your responsibility to make sure the person does the work. I know it's easy for us to say, let's try and get the other person to do that. But I really try and think, what can you do to stack the deck as much as you possibly can to give that person the best chance of being able to do the reps so they can get the result? So one of the big things that when I spoke to one of these companies, they said, what we really want is one-on-one time with you for each of our people. So that's what I've done. Mine is more of a higher cost, higher touch model so someone can get more personalized support. The
Mm.
exact support that I used to provide to these C-level executives and billion-dollar founders is now available for their team. And now that's not the smartest thing in the world in terms of me being able to scale this around the world, but I love doing it. We can get great wins for people, and it's something that I'm focused on for the first few years is me with one-on-one support, me with group coaching support every single week. And we do that in a way where we leave ego at the door. We be vulnerable about what we want from our life and how we want to show up. And we can really thrive off the energy of the group to get these big wins.
So who would be an ideal client for you? Who is it that you're really, this is my sweet spot?
So the organizations right now that they feel like they're dealing with burnout with a lot of their managers and executives, because if you've got a team of managers and executives that are aged between that 30 to 50 years old, they're very likely to be married, have young kids, physical health is tough, but you're expecting them to be the real drivers of culture and strategy of your organization. Those are the people that need the most support, because rather than treating them as just an employee, let's treat them as an individual because they're still a person when they go home. And the industries that I work with specifically at the moment are tech, health, real estate, and finance, where they have big goals, likely big competition, a lot of stress from the economic landscape and the market that they're in. And I'm the one that can come in and make sure that people have the right head on their shoulders.
I gotcha. And so last question for you. Well, actually, before that, where can people go to learn more about you, learn more about this, learn more about Win the Day, become part of it?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about Win the Day, you can go to win.day. It's a new URL, win.day. So it's about the most concise URL we could possibly have for Win the Day. And if you go to win.day/50 ways, you can also download a free ebook. It's just come out where all these people that I've interviewed have asked them one single question of what's the one thing you do to win the day. So you get a collection of all of those different people, 50 of the best Win the Day tips. It's available for you.
Oh, I love that. So, last question for you. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, or maybe the best piece of advice you've ever given?
Oh, great question. I love a good quote. So many. One that I really love, I think is very important, particularly for the people who didn't do very well academically when they were at high school or university, is from Napoleon Hill, who said that action is the real measure of intelligence. I cannot tell you the amount of people that they graduate from university, they have a piece of paper and they think that somehow the rest of their life is going to get easier. Like it doesn't. Adversity, challenge, struggle, all of this stuff is coming for us. We've got no idea what's going to happen the next day or even later on today. So action is the real measure of intelligence. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past. What are you going to do to take action today? So that's a great Napoleon Hill quote. And another one that I share with people a lot at every single speech that I do is that each day, if you do not make the decision to win, you've automatically made the decision to lose. Like it's really that simple. It's human nature that we fall victim to distraction and procrastination. You know, a day turns into a week, turns into a month, turns into a year. So just take it a day at a time. What can you do to win today? If you do not make the decision to win, you've automatically made the decision to lose.
Wow. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of, gosh, I wish you could remember his name, but he was kind of the world's best horse trainer. And they were asking him why he's had such a wonderful life at age 85 or something. He's still working. And he said that every day he gets up and he says, you have three choices, right? You can make it a crummy day, make it an okay day, or make it a great day. Just like you're talking about. He says, every day I decide I'm going to make it a great day. But what I found interesting about what he said is when you string enough of those together in a row, that's when you have an amazing life. And he said, I've now strung together 40 years in a row of great days. And that was the secret to his wonderful life that he's lived. It's very
So
similar to what
powerful.
you're saying. Yeah.
So powerful. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld, you know, I mentioned earlier this idea of stacking the deck for your success. Jerry Seinfeld, when he wanted to become a big TV star, big breakout comedian, he would just write every single day. And his goal was just to not break the chain. The moment he started, just don't break the chain. Like I've been doing a daily journal. Now it's been going for 5 years. My goal is just to not break the chain. Every morning I do the journal. I look at what I was doing on the previous years. A lot of organizations that I talk with, they talk about these goals for the company, but they rarely talk about that a team is a collection of individuals. So the best way to achieve an organizational goal is to strengthen the individual who strengthens the team who helps achieve the goal. So yeah, that's the way I think about it.
I love it. James, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today. I look forward to following you. I look forward to winning the day myself. And I'm going to download those 50 quotes or 50 things that people have written down for you on how to win the day, because I got to win my day too.
That's right. It's nice to have some inspiration to find out what other top performers have done. And yeah, next time you're in LA, Gary, let me know and we'll put you in the hot seat for the Win the Day podcast.
I love it. Thanks, James.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend.
I really hope you enjoyed today's episode and that through today's guest, you heard how important it is to know your why and how impactful it can be in your life and the lives of those around you. Be sure to head over to WHY.institute.com and discover your why today. Remember, the more you know about yourself, the more you'll know about others. I'm Dr. Gary Sanchez, and I'll see you on the next episode.